talk about routines. Now, help your child know certain basic routines. For example, they sing the national anthem and take the pledge every day. They have to learn to queue up at the canteen and buy their own food. They have to go to the toilet, and they must know how to clean themselves. I must say this is very real, especially for kids who are not in childcare center. Kids who are in childcare center tends to be very independent, but for kids, some of the children may not even know how to clean after themselves. So sometimes my teachers' first few days of school, we end up having to bring the child to the toilet and clean for them, which is actually quite tough because I said we have so many children. So it will help a lot. Parents don't laugh, but we have kids who don't know how to clean after themselves when they go to the washroom. So these are things we have to teach. Okay? And then at this point in time, actually you can go to school websites to take a look at schools. A lot of us post pictures of the school, the programs, the kind of kids, the profile of the teachers, it's all there. So start looking at schools with your child. You'll be surprised, sometimes the child say, hey, I like this school because they have Okay? Get your child involved even with this preparation of entering primary 1. As I mentioned just now, help your child learn to be independent and develop good homework habits and time management skills. Now here, I want to emphasize on time management skills. Many of our children have no concept of time, so it's important at home parents already set certain routines, especially you know that the child is going to primary school, and if the school you select is in the morning session for primary 1, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of schools are transiting into single session. So some of you, if your child sleeps only at 12 and wake up at 9 or 10, you may want to start training them to sleep a little earlier. Normally we encourage parents by 9, by 10 to get your child in bed, because usually most primary school starts at 7:30. So you probably have to wake them by 6:30, get them to have breakfast, get them ready and be in school by 7:15 so they don't rush. So these are routines you have to start setting it at home. And then, for example, good to have some kind of very simple, basic structure like, okay, this is time to do your work, and this is time for you to play. So when my children were younger, because I'm also working, so what I do is I do a huge timetable and put it up for them. So they know that after school, for example, when they come back from school at 2 o'clock, 2 to 3 is their rest time. 3 to 4 is their homework time. Then 4 to 6 is what I call play time. Now, you have to set playtime because it's important. Later I explain to you why, especially for some kids who are very active. Okay? And then, for example, after that, dinner time, that's where we do what? Okay, personally, I enjoy doing enrichment with my children. So my 2 kids read a lot. So my evening time is for them to read. So once they're used to certain routines and certain discipline, when they come to school, it's very easy for them to adapt. Don't give them free play, and later on, I will also mention, don't give them the iPhone or the iPad as their buddy. It's very dangerous because if it's not guided, they actually can get addicted. Okay? And provide a conducive learning environment at home. Meaning, in the place where your child is in, it's good if they have a corner to do their work. It's good for them to have another corner to do their play. Don't lump them all together because then the child gets very distracted. So for example, if you look at the picture, these are all taken from my pupils because this is one of their homework. My P1 kids, as part of their values in action, they have to actually clean their own study area. So parents actually took pictures to show us how their study area look like. So this is some of the study area. So you notice it's very simple, but the child must know that when I come to this place, it's time to focus and do my work. Okay? Here I want to sidetrack a little. One thing I learned from my very senior teacher when I first started teaching, you know what she told me? So Cheng, train your child to sit down and eat their meals. So I asked why? Because this is one of the first few habits they learn to sit down and to focus. If a child can sit through a meal for half an hour, likely they can sit through for most of the things when you give them to do, and it's any task. And I find it very true. So I don't know what you all think, but this is some of our life experiences. When I tested and tried on my own children, I realized it worked. Okay? Next, this is very important. Cultivate the love for learning, and especially through reading. You notice that reading is very important because it's one way to actually pick up the language. And here I would like to appeal to all parents. I'm guilty. Here reading means not just English books. Do try to encourage the child to read mother tongue books. I think we are all losing our mother tongue languages. Some of us can't speak our own mother tongue language, which is not good. So do encourage that, because we do have kids who cannot speak their mother tongue. And when they come to primary school, because it's bilingual, so it's very tough when they do their mother tongue. So do encourage that, especially when they are young. So for example, for my family, every Sunday is library day in the afternoon. So we just bring them there to the library, they choose their books, I choose my books. So it becomes like a whole family thing. So it's important, like I said, we role model the reading. Okay, and I know some parents have very good practice in terms of reading the child to sleep. So I know some of you have family time, every night you read together with the child. Actually, this is very important because it's actually part of bonding. And here I would like to encourage, I'm so glad to see a lot of fathers here. Don't relegate the job of parenting to your wife. Can I say that? Because research have shown actually the father figure is so important, and it shows, especially for the girls, a role model for the family. So fathers, can I continue to encourage you? Because under That's for Life, they're actually encouraging fathers to be more involved in parenting. Because sometimes, you see, what we call, one play the hard, one play the soft figure. So if your wife is the disciplinarian, then you must be the one to nurture. Can you get what I'm trying to say here? But in any case, both of you must be in tune in terms of disciplining the child. Okay? So try to bring your child to the library. For my family, for example, my children always have a book in their bag. So whenever they are free, they should take a book out to read. That becomes a life habit. For example, I begin to discover my son loves science, so I started ordering young scientists when he was very young. And since then, it becomes a habit. So get to know what your child enjoys reading. Start with that, because that will motivate him to want to read more. Okay? Okay. With regards to home routines, it's also good if you can learn to start setting goals with your child. And here when I say goals and targets, I'm not talking about academic, like must learn how to add from 1 to 10. No. Here I'm referring to teaching a child to learn to set goals. For example, learning of new skills. Now this June holiday, for example, your children will have their school holidays, am I right? Set certain goals like, how many books would you like to read? Or would you like to learn a new skills? Would you like to learn a new swimming style or learn rollerblading? Learn to set goals with your child so that they are meaningfully occupied, and they learn to make full use of the time they have. Okay, one of my pupils, I know the dad tells me he enjoys cooking. So holiday, they have their cooking workshop. So these are things that, if your child enjoys doing certain things, set time for that. Okay. Next, focus on developing your child's strength. And here, I think what Madam Rashidah said, every child is gifted. Every child has certain talent. By now, when your child is about 5 or 6, you begin to see certain disposition in your child. Now, try to tap on those dispositions. Okay. Emphasize on the learning process and not the results. For example, when your child completes a piece of work, don't talk about, finish, okay, good. No, but rather, do you put in your best effort? Is this piece of work neatly done? So focus on the process. Or did your child just anyhow do and say, nah, mom, I'm done. Then you notice that it's all done wrongly, it's all done in a mess because he just can't wait to finish this and so that he can go and play his iPad. Now, from young, we have to train our child to be disciplined and to give their best in every piece of work. Not just in the academic, it can be even games. For example, my children are trained that when they play, they're given that 1 hour. Once they finish, they have to pack their toys. If not, it means no play time the next day. So these are basic responsibilities we want to inculcate in our children. Okay, last but not least, we talk about avoid comparing your child's performance with that of others. Now this one is really, try not to do it at all if possible. Don't say, how come your cousin can do this? Or how come your koko or your who can do? Because when you start comparing, actually it brings a lot of insecurity in children. And when children are insecure, we notice they are afraid to try and they are afraid of failure. But rather, actually it's important to say, okay, why didn't you do well? Did something happen? Now, how did you feel? Do you feel lousy? Because inherently, actually, if you look very carefully, all all children wants to do well. They all want the affirmation from us to say, well done. So sometimes they may not do good enough, so-called in our standard. Don't criticize on the product, but talk through with the child like, oh, how come you did this way? Why was the pattern done this way? Or why did you draw the picture like that? Or how come your Lego structure that doesn't look very stable, that it can fall anytime? Because you didn't join the parts properly. You're not patient to do that. So focus on that. And I'm not sure whether yesterday you read this newspaper on don't give up on motivating kids to study. In yesterday's paper, take a read. It's very interesting because now the whole concept, studies and research have proven that don't just always focus on the product, but focus on the process, because that's where your child learns most. Because I think we all make mistakes, but it's whether we learn from our mistake. Okay? Now this is something often not emphasized, but we want to say this again and again. Ensure your child has sufficient sleep. And like I mentioned, your child cannot be sleeping at 12, 1 o'clock and coming to school, because half the time they'll be nodding off to sleep. So if your child have that habit, habits can be changed. We read this book, I can't remember the title. Habits are formed in 28 days. It means about a month. So habits can also be broken. That means bad habits. So if your child has been sleeping very late every night, better start training them to sleep early now. Especially if you know the school you're choosing is single session. It means in primary 1 being in the morning. Okay? Now, the other thing that's also very important is balanced diet. Now, unfortunately, obesity in school is on the rise. Meaning our kids are getting bigger, eating more, but unfortunately eating unhealthy food. So it's important from young, the child must be fit. Because if not, later on you got a lot of other issues, health issues you have to work with. For example, things like asthma, things like, quite a lot of these issues. So do try to get the child eat healthily. And I'm not sure whether you're aware, most schools are now coming on board with HPB, Health Promotion Board, recommendation on the kind of food to serve in school. So parents, when school does this, don't complain, can? Because you know what the child will complain when it's all steamed food, vegetables, and what they do is they pluck and throw away all the vegetables, So parents must train them to eat vegetables from young, because it's very important they have the vitamins and the fiber. And in the past, I think some schools have this what we call fried food day. For my school, we have embarked on totally no more fried food. And even our meat, no more skin, that kind. So we serve healthy food. So if you're not sure what kind of food portion to serve your child, check out on Health Promotion Board. There's a lot of resources and got interesting recipe. Check it out, okay? Next is unstructured play. Now this is something, again, just like I mentioned a bit about iPad. Now unfortunately, many of us are guilty, and sometimes we actually pass the iPad to a child to keep the child quiet. For half an hour, can, but don't let the child be hooked to an iPad for more than half an hour each time. Because if you do it for 2 to 3 hours, number one, the eyes will go first. 2, when your child is overstimulated from young, later on when you give them raw materials to play, they won't know what to do. So one of the things I've learned from my child's kindergarten teacher, that was long ago when he was in kindergarten, they gave him a lot of bricks to just build and create. So my child can just sit there for an hour and build. Then he said, oh, this is my palace. Oh, this is my castle, and this is my what. So the child learned to start to imagine things without being influenced. Okay. Now the other thing that I love, our family love to do is every weekend we'll go find a park, find some strange places, and we start trekking. Partly for fitness, partly to be close to nature. So there's something, because that's where your child learn to pick up science, geography. Now you'd be surprised, actually in Singapore there's a lot of very interesting places to go to. Like Fort Canning, like where's that haunted place? No, haunted place. Down AST Marlon Road, Labrador. Do you know it's the only, if I'm not wrong, the only natural beach, Labrador. It's the only natural beach left. So these are places that we like to go, and when they were older, we started going caving overseas. And these are not just good for their physical well-being, actually it's very good for family bonding. So cut down on the shopping time together. Shopping number one, okay, can I say this as a mother? Aircon is one of the places where your children will catch a lot of bugs. When they're very young, notice they fall sick very often. avoid aircon, please. So parks, natural places are one of the best. And now Singapore, we have park connectors. So those of you who cycle, you can cycle as a family. You know how amazing the park connectors are? And this, not only that, is good for their heart when you cycle. Okay? So I am for outdoor. Because very sad when we had hell, like what Madam Rush, my children, when they saw the earthworm, they saw the Malay, they go, ee, and they were like screaming and shouting. And then some of them who are quite exposed to outdoor actually picked up the thing and start showing their friends. Oh, and it's good. You see, children naturally don't have fear. Who gave them the fear? Who like go, ee, you know who? Yeah. So we must enjoy that learning. Then our children will pick up that same learning and that same excitement for things around them. Okay. Now, parents, so what can you do? So not easy being parents now. Okay, but rest assured, don't worry. But I say, if you enjoy seeing your child through these 6 years, your child will also enjoy schooling. Okay? So one of the things that a lot of schools do now is we have a lot of seminars, workshops on parenting, and also on the curriculum. Now, do attend them, because we have also parents saying, how come now maths is taught like that? When I was learning maths, not so complicated, what draw model? Okay, so attend the workshop, because then they will share with you what we do in school. Because sometimes parents, when you teach them, you confuse the child, no? They say, but my mommy say must do this, but my teacher say must do this. So the child don't know which one to follow. Then worse if you have tutor. 3 different sets of confusion. Yeah. So parents, when schools have this seminar, can I suggest, I know you're busy, but at least in their first few years, attend them. Once you have an idea what they teach in school, you can support them. Okay? And then if you can, do. Okay, this one to me is a must. Go for the parent-teacher conference. A lot of schools already have this. And like what Madam Rashidah mentioned, sometimes you'll get the child to present and you are there to listen. And sometimes you'll be surprised that your child, okay, how your child is in school can be very different from when he's at home. They can be very different characters. I have parents who complain, they say, my son is very naughty, but I say, cannot be. He's a monitor in school, no, he's so responsible, so sometimes good to hear from the teacher how your child is like, okay? And then if you can, volunteer. Some of us who are homemakers, some of you are really very committed, you actually resign to look after your child. So when your child is in school, you are free, do join us. We need a lot of volunteers. For example, we do have reading moms who read to the weaker learners. We do have parents who help us to be chaperone, to bring kids out for learning journey. And a lot of schools also have parent support group. Now this is a time where you can actually come together for parents, to network to learn parenting tips. Try not to network and gossip. This one I want to say this. No, to me, I always tell parents, if concerned, talk to the teacher. They're the best person to explain. Because sometimes when you talk, then you begin to imagine, and it's very negative, and it's no good for the child, no good for the school. So we tell parents, and gone are the days, parents will tell me, what if you victimize my child? I say, no, we don't have time for all this. To me, every child is precious, and every child is important. So if you have a concern, we are also concerned. So if you're worried, like your child come back with certain stories, and you want to check, do check. Because sometimes I say, children, they don't understand certain things, they may tell you, give the wrong information. Okay? Okay. I think I spent too much on that. Okay. I want to talk a bit about some websites. I think some of you probably will already know some of this website, because I think that's how you probably get to know about this ExCEL presentation. So I will not belabor that. Okay, there's this website, it's called Parents in Education, or PI for short. It's a website actually launched by our minister last September. Now there are a lot of very interesting articles on parenting, on education news, on even the school curriculum. Like I said, the curriculum has changed somewhat. Like Madam Rashidah said, we now have PEL. PEL has 4 components. Now we focus on citizenship education also. So there's SEL, social emotional learning. So there's a lot of acronyms that you hear the school talk about. So it's good for you to read up so that you know what your child is learning. Because one of my parents said, wow, your timetable got so many acronyms, I don't even know what it means. Because in our time, we don't have such subjects so-called. So read up on all this. Okay, you can also download this in your phone. And Facebook. So for Facebook, if you actually sign up, you can actually receive notification on any of the announcement by MOE. Okay? So with that, we finish our presentation.
Thank you, Mrs. Lee and Madam Rashidah. It's time for Q&A, so let's invite Mrs. Lee and Madam Rashidah to take a seat at the sofa. And we do have